All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Just a couple minutes past 2 o'clock. So thank everybody for being here today. My name is Sydney Charnello. Most of you know me. Um, and today we have a great presentation that I'm looking forward to about SMI determinations. So our presenter today is coming to us from Tucson. Her name is Jennifer Jansen, and she is from Solari. So I'm going to let her give a bit more of a background on herself, and she will go ahead and start with our presentation. And before we get going on that, I will just say one last thing. We are going to go ahead and save all our questions for the end of the presentation. So if you need to, please feel free as your questions come through, put them in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we will open it for those questions, get those questions for you guys answered. And whenever you're ready, Jennifer, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks so much, Sydney. Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Jansen. I'm the Eligibility Education and Training Coordinator at Solari Crisis and Human Services. I run our office that is located in Tucson, and then I provide statewide training, coaching, and clarification on everything related to both the serious mental illness or SMI determination process for adults, as well as the serious emotional disturbance or SED determination process for kids. So I do work closely with behavioral health providers across Arizona. I also work with our community members and other community partners, folks like DCS, folk rehab folks, public defenders, basically any other group who might be interested in how to refer friends, family, or possibly their clients to an agency or a health home to get an SMI assessment completed. First, I do want to thank Mark from Care First and Mike and Sydney here for the invitation to present to you all today. And now to start, I do want to brag a little bit about all of the incredible work being done at Solari and explain our role in the SMI determination process. So a question I am always asked, who or what is a Solari and what exactly do you do? So Solari Crisis and Human Services was formerly known as Crisis Response Network. We rebranded, we changed our name way back in April of 2021, but I still continue to get questions. Only our name changed. We are still the same organization doing some really amazing things. We're actually based in Tempe, Arizona. We provide data, we share resources, and we offer solutions to community members and our community partners. And we're currently celebrating over 15 years of inspiring hope and helping people through our crisis call centers and various referral services. And all of our services work together. So let me explain that just a little bit more. Under our Solari umbrella, you will still find Crisis Response Network providing 24/7 crisis hotline and peer run warm line services to anyone who reaches out for help. Solari is the statewide crisis line phone vendor for all of Arizona, and our crisis line staff also takes calls from the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We do that for both Arizona and the great state of Oklahoma. We have an office in Oklahoma City now as well. Our community support network connects individuals in Arizona to services and resources that can help them enhance their quality of life through access to information on topics like housing, education, public safety, where to find healthy foods in their area, and other local services. Anyone can access these free information and referral services, and these do include our 211arizona.org website and our 211 helpline. Both of those provide up-to-date contact information for all sorts of health and human services. Our Be Connected referral services, those focus solely on resources for veterans, their families, and their caregivers. The Homeless Management Information Service, or HMIS, that is used to collect information on the provision of housing and other services available for those experiencing homelessness, and then we can aid in securing help for those identified in our HMIS system. And then last but certainly not least, my amazing team, Solari's Eligibility and Care Services Team, or ECS. Since October of 2015, we have been making all of these serious mental illness, or SMI, determinations for the whole state. And as of October 1st of 2023, we started making SED determinations for kiddos as well. We do answer directly to Arizona's healthcare cost containment system, what you all hopefully know as ACCESS, which is Arizona's Medicaid system. And then we work in partnership with the Tribal and Regional Behavioral Health Authorities, or TRIBAs, the Access Complete Care, or ACC health plans, and then behavioral health providers across Arizona. You're going to see that all of our lines of business overlap, meaning they do work together to inspire hope for all through human connection and technology innovations. I'll give you an example of how all this ties together towards the end of our webinar today. So now let me explain our role. So the Eligibility and Care Services Teams, or ECS, we do have an office in Tempe, we have an office in Tucson, we have a group of 9 psychologists and 1 psychiatrist on staff, and they handle about 10,000 SMI determinations every year. But Solari doesn't provide any direct client services. Our doctors act as a neutral third party, and they have no monetary incentive to determine someone eligible or not eligible to receive SMI services. We receive SMI application packets from behavioral health providers all over Arizona. We do that through our secure website. We're not responsible for determining what the actual SMI services would be for someone, only whether or not they meet the state's criteria to receive those services or that designation. Access, Arizona's Medicaid system, they are the governing body over this program. So they provide the criteria, they mandate timelines and other rules. Solari reviews documentation submitted by an Access contracted behavioral health provider. And if we're given the okay from the applicant, we could also review records from other agencies or hospitals, perhaps interview that person just to help determine if they meet the diagnostic and functional impairment criteria defined by Access for that person to qualify or to be designated eligible to receive SMI services or that higher level of care. So first up, I do want to walk you all through the definition of serious mental illness. I'm going to give you some clarification on the fact versus fiction that is out there in our communities. And I'm also going to explain the SMI level of service and the criteria that must be met for someone to qualify or to be designated as SMI eligible. So to start with, there are a lot of misconceptions and misinformation and just tons of social stigma regarding mental illness. So it is important to understand that serious mental illness, or SMI, as we're going to talk about it this afternoon, it is a designation. It is not a diagnosis. So SMI is a behavioral health category that we use here in Arizona to identify people who need additional support because their mental illness has severely impacted their ability to function. Those with an SMI designation have gone through the determination process and were found eligible to receive extra services to help them feel better, stay safe, and just manage their life. To be determined eligible to receive SMI services in Arizona, a person must meet the following criteria. The applicant needs to be 17 and a half years old. SMI benefits would kick in if they are approved at age 18. The idea is to evaluate early, and if they are approved, their treatment team can then have a plan in place as they transition from children's to adult services. Access also requires that that individual have both a qualifying diagnosis from one of these groups that I've listed here, and they must have at least one serious problem or functional impairment in their daily life due to the symptoms of a qualifying diagnosis. So functional impairment could mean things like they can't hold a job, they can't leave their house because of anxiety, they're unable to parent, and so on. They must have had those serious problems for at least the last 12 months or at least the last 6 months, with the expectation that their impairment would continue for an additional 6 months. So because of that, most likely an individual meeting this criteria will have had at least a 6-month history of mental health treatment. That can include outpatient counseling, medication management, maybe hospitalizations, or even court-ordered treatment. An individual could also be at risk of deterioration. So quite simply, this person isn't currently seriously impaired, but the treatment team feels that they could deteriorate to such a level without treatment, supports, or perhaps medications. So now to answer the really big questions on everyone's mind, what will an SMI designation do for someone and how can I explain those services or those benefits? So if approved or found eligible to receive SMI services, a person will have access to integrated whole body healthcare and support from a team who will coordinate services and help them feel better. Contrary to popular belief, Arizona's SMI program is not the same as disability or Social Security benefits. The SMI designation does not get you a monthly check for $1,000, a free house, or a get out of jail free card. Someone approved for SMI services will be enrolled in an integrated health insurance program that's run by the Regional Behavioral Health Authority or REBA in their area, and they will be able to receive mental health services regardless of their current healthcare coverage. So those services could stand alone, or they could be in addition to their current access or Medicaid plan, their Medicare plan, their Blue Cross Blue Shield, their All-Tex, or some other insurance coverage. If you are determined eligible to receive SMI services in Arizona, you will receive case management. You can meet with your case manager at your assigned clinic or health home up to 4 times each week. They're going to check in and explore your needs and then identify how those needs would be addressed through treatment and community support. You will also have access to a care manager at your REBA. They can help coordinate services outside of your home clinic if that's something that you need. You will have access to medication management. You may even have options for more medication types or a higher tier of medications, things like monthly injectables if you forget to take your daily medications. You're going to have access to therapy services. You might even have options for more types of therapy outside of your home clinic. Another major benefit would be no-cost crisis services. So the most important thing for you all to understand is that the SMI program acts like a safety net. Once you are determined eligible to receive SMI services in Arizona, you are always eligible to receive those services. These services are voluntary and they're always based on an individual's need as that person's level of functioning can change. Let's say that it's been a year since you were approved for the SMI designation, and now you're doing really well and you just don't need that higher level of care. When people are doing well, they are encouraged to use their strengths and to function with less support, but they would keep the designation as a safety net. They're still going to have access to these services if they ever need that higher level of care. If they lose their insurance coverage for some reason, whether that's their Blue Cross Blue Shield or their Medicaid coverage, they will still be able to receive behavioral health services due to their SMI designation. The SMI program also gives that individual access to some additional services based on their needs and their REBA's available funding. That can include things like SMI supported housing if there's any openings, help with voc rehab services or other types of job services, transportation, peer support, even technical support and special assistance from the Access Office of Human Rights or OHR. They have experts who can help advocate for a person's SMI rights and help them navigate behavioral health services. So to be clear, Solari just determines eligibility, not the actual SMI services for someone. The regional behavioral health authorities, those REBAs, they are responsible for benefits and services. So they do vary by region, what we call geographic service areas or GSAs, basically North, Central, or Southern Arizona. You can always check your REBA member services handbook on your REBA's website to see a list of their currently covered services. Misinformation and stigma can seriously affect a person's willingness to either seek or to continue treatment for their mental health. And they may feel that applying for SMI benefits or being determined eligible for services will take away their rights. So I always want to be very clear. The SMI designation is protected health information. A person who has been approved for the SMI designation and those services, they still have the same rights as everybody else. They can vote, get married, hold a job, apply to join the military, have unsupervised visitation with their kids after a divorce. They can even have a weapon in their home if they're determined eligible to receive SMI services, unless a judge has taken any of those rights away. So the SMI designation doesn't take away anybody's rights. Only the courts can do that. I would like to ensure that you all understand the difference between an SMI diagnosis versus an SMI designation. So a qualifying diagnosis is just that. An SMI SMI designation means that someone has applied for SMI services, they've gone through the determination process, and they were approved for that designation. The military question always comes up, so I do like to use that as an example. A person can apply to join the military. They will need to disclose medical records. That person could be disqualified from enlisting if their medical records show that they carry a diagnosis, a disorder with maybe psychotic features, things like schizophrenia or a delusional disorder. If their medical records indicate that they take daily medications to control symptoms of a bipolar disorder. So it would be their diagnosis, the military's rules, and those medications, not the SMI designation that could ultimately disqualify them from serving in the armed forces. So the determination process is not as complicated and time consuming as many people might think. So let's look at an overview of the actual determination process, what I like to call the flow of things. The rough outline version of the SMI determination process goes like this. A behavioral health provider can offer an evaluation at any time to their client if they feel it is appropriate, or a request for an evaluation could be made by that individual, by their parent or legal guardian, or by the courts to any access contracted behavioral health provider. That provider must then complete the evaluation. They're going to compile the required forms and records. Then they're going to submit that SMI assessment packet to Solari through our secure website. Then our doctors are going to review that packet and then make a determination regarding that individual's eligibility to receive SMI services. Once that determination has been made, we will notify the applicant, the submitting provider, and access all the same day of the outcome. So how does someone request an assessment, or how can you refer someone for an evaluation? There are multiple options. If you or a loved one or one of your clients would like to be assessed for SMI services, if a person is already receiving services from an access contracted behavioral health provider or a health home, a request for an SMI assessment could be made directly to that agency at that person's next scheduled appointment with their recovery coach or their case manager, or simply just by calling that agency and requesting an appointment to be assessed. A person does not need to have an assigned health home. Maybe they're new to Arizona. Maybe they just don't currently have any access coverage. They can contact the Regional Behavioral Health Authority, so obviously Care First in Northern Arizona. And they would arrange for a qualified assessor to complete that application packet and submit it to Solari. I've also listed Mercy Care is the REBA for Central Arizona, and Arizona Complete Health is the REBA for Southern Arizona. Another option is an individual wanting to be assessed could contact Crisis Preparation and Recovery, or CPR. They're actually based out of Phoenix, but they are contracted directly with Access to complete evaluations by telephone or telemedicine anywhere in Arizona. If maybe hospital social workers, private practice psychiatrists, DCS, probation officers, anyone in the court system, if some other community stakeholder would like to request an evaluation on behalf of their client, you could certainly send referrals to CPR. More information and their referral form can be obtained by going to their website that I've listed here. The evaluation itself typically lasts about 1.5 to 2 hours. During this process, all the necessary paperwork is signed and a comprehensive medical and psychiatric history is gathered. A relative or other advocate is always welcome to attend with permission of the applicant. That can certainly be helpful, as that person may be able to provide some historical information and examples of symptoms or behaviors. It's always helpful for an applicant to bring identification to their appointment, as well as insurance information, although no insurance coverage is necessary and there is no cost to go through with an evaluation. It's also helpful for that applicant to provide maybe a list of their current medications, a list of any past behavioral health providers, including maybe hospitals or residential treatment centers, even if they're out of state or even out of the country. Quick true story, our records department has gotten records from the Netherlands before. The assessing provider will go over all of this information prior to that person's evaluation. Timelines are an important and often misunderstood part of this process. These timelines are also mandated by Access, so let me walk you through that next. Any adult residing in Arizona can ask and must be assessed, regardless of that person's insurance coverage, their citizenship status, or whether or not the provider actually thinks that person meets SMI criteria. If that individual is 17 and a half or has a legal guardian, those same rules apply. That parent or legal guardian, what we now call a healthcare decision maker, they could make a request to any access contracted behavioral health provider or one of the other options I just mentioned, contacting Care First or CPR. A person has to consent to an evaluation unless they are under 18 or have a legal guardian making their decisions for them, or if they are under a court order. Once the evaluating provider receives the request, they then have 7 business days to complete the evaluation appointment and that assessment packet. Then once their packet is completed and consent is given, the provider then has 1 business day to submit the completed packet to Solari to make a determination. Solari is committed to making well-informed, accurate, and timely SMI determinations and maintaining the fidelity of SMI criteria and collaborating with providers to make that determination process as transparent as possible. Once we receive the packet, we are going to review it. And if it is found complete, all the forms are there, everything's been dated and signed, it's then assigned to one of our doctors, and they're going to make a decision regarding eligibility from 3 days from the date that's listed on the consent form. So either SMI, not SMI, or based on options selected, the applicant could waive their right to that 3-day decision and give us up to 20 business days. That's going to give our docs a chance to review some outside records. They could talk with the assessing provider to gather some more information if needed. They could request records from other agencies or hospitals. We could do a telephone or a telemed visit with the applicant. We could also refer that person to an extended evaluation program if they are experiencing some substance use issues or concerns. But ultimately, our doctors will make a determination regarding SMI eligibility. The same day that that decision is made, we will notify the applicant and their parent or legal guardian, if applicable, by mail. We will let the submitting provider know by email, and we will let Access know the outcome electronically. Let's dive a little bit deeper into what else happens after the determination is made. So once the determination is made, we will notify the applicant and again, their parent or legal guardian, if applicable, by mail that they are either eligible or not eligible to receive SMI services, and we will explain their appeal rights. And I'm going to be talking more about the appeal process in just a second. Sometimes an applicant might be experiencing homelessness or seeking some other assistance. Our doctors may have one of our resource navigators reach out and offer some extra help in finding shelter, food, utility assistance, or respite care, maybe filing for disability. If you all remember back to that slide at the beginning, I showed you our other services, things like 211 and Be Connected for veterans. All of our services work with each other. Our resource navigators can offer some short-term telephonic support to anyone experiencing difficulties in navigating the social service system. Our goal is always to connect individuals to long-term supports for their needs, even if those needs are not related to the SMI determination process. After the determination is made, we will also alert the assessing provider, whoever submitted the packet, of the outcome. We will notify Access of the determination the same day that we make it. They are then going to notify that person's REBA and their ACC health plan if they are currently enrolled with Medicaid. All designated SMI members in Arizona have a voice and a choice. Once someone has been approved or has been designated as SMI, they're going to get a notification letter from us saying that they were approved. We're also going to give them their REBA contact information because their REBA SMI health plan will now be covering both physical and behavioral health services. They will receive a new Medicaid card in the mail from Access showing that their health plan has changed, but they do have choices. For example, talking kind of about the whole state, in Maricopa County, they have assigned SMI clinics that offer only SMI services. Anybody can request to be assigned to the SMI clinic of their choice. For individuals who might have a complicated physical health issue, something like a heart condition or diabetes, if they see a specialist of some sort, their REBA's SMI plan may not include services from that specialty provider. Access offers an opt-out plan, which maps out actions that need to be taken, which could allow an SMI member to revert back to their previous ACC plan, like either Health Choice or Care First here in Northern Arizona, if their REBA plan isn't able to meet their physical health care needs. The expectation is that the member would contact their REBA, and their provider can always help them with this. And then their REBA would make all efforts to meet their needs by reaching out to that specialist. They could offer some single case contracting. They could ask them to become an in-network provider. They could maybe review that member's needs just to see if continued care with that specialist is actually needed. Maybe they could be transitioned to an in-network provider. Tribal members also have these choices. They can enroll or stay enrolled with their American Indian Health Program for all of their health plan benefits, both physical and behavioral health. They could transfer to the REBA in their area, or they could request the opt-out to a different health plan, as I outlined earlier. I always encourage providers to do a warm handoff if their member's going to be changing clinics or if they're having some health plan issues. Have those folks come in and make that phone call together, help them choose a clinic, and help them call that new clinic together just to make that intake appointment. This can be a scary and confusing process for folks, so just some extra attention to those little details help folks get settled in and used to the changes that might be taking place for them. So let's talk about the appeal process. No matter the outcome, whether their person is SMI eligible or not SMI eligible, everybody has the right to appeal their decision. They have a 60-day window to do that from the date of their determination. The applicant receives instructions on how to appeal in their outcome letter that is mailed to them. Appealing is as simple as placing a phone call to our appeals department. An appeal could be requested by that applicant, perhaps their parent or legal guardian, or also by their clinical treatment team if that person is under a court order. We can also accept an appeal through our website or by mail as well. We're going to schedule an informal conference within 7 days of that initial contact with a different psychologist. So one of our docs who didn't make the original determination. That's going to give the case a new set of eyes to review information already submitted, and then to hear any additional information that the applicant wants to share. And we always encourage folks to include family members, maybe a friend, maybe their case manager, recovery coach in the appeal process. We do about 10,000 SMI determinations every year. About 1,000 of those will be appealed, and of those, about half can be overturned from not eligible to eligible because we are able to get more or better documentation regarding impairment because enough information just wasn't included in the original submission. If the applicant still isn't happy and they want to appeal this decision, they do have the right to request an administrative hearing within a 30-day window, and they will present their case to a judge in Phoenix. So once a person has gone through the determination process, they can choose to appeal, or they could wait 6 months and then apply for SMI services again. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, once you are determined eligible in the state of Arizona for SMI benefits, you are always eligible for SMI benefits, even if you don't currently need that higher level of care. Maybe you move away to Montana and you move back after 5 or 10 years. That SMI designation sits here as a safety net should you ever need those services in Arizona again, unless you've asked to have the designation removed and you've gone through what we call the decertification or removal of designation process. So anyone still receiving behavioral health services that wants to have their designation removed, they would need to go through the removal of designation process. It's essentially the same as the eligibility process I just walked you all through. Any access contracted behavioral health provider could provide that assessment and submit the packet to Solari to make a determination. Decertification is criteria-based only, so if that person still has a qualifying diagnosis and they're still functionally impaired due to the symptoms of their diagnosis, they still meet SMI criteria and would therefore keep the SMI designation. But remember, SMI services are voluntary and based on that person's need and their REBA's available funding. Somebody could just choose not to use their services, but again, they're going to keep the designation as a safety net. If they suddenly need crisis services or medications or decide that therapy was a good thing and they want to re-engage, that safety net is going to be there for them. Also, if they're unable to see the doctor that they need to, Access has that opt-out plan, so they could choose a different health plan for their physical health needs. A person does not need to be decertified to change health plans or to change clinics. An individual needs to wait 6 months between any type of determination. So for example, if somebody was determined eligible for services in January, they would need to wait until at least July before they could request a decertification. If that person still meets criteria, they could appeal that decision, or they could wait 6 months and then apply for decertification again. Just so you all know, there is also another option that you could offer someone if you feel it's appropriate. If a person has had zero engagement in any behavioral health services for more than 6 months, they have an option to contact Solari directly, and they can request an administrative removal of designation. We would contact the REBA and that person's health plans to verify that no qualifying services have been received within the last 6 months. If we can verify this, then we can send out a notice to the applicant that they meet requirements for removal, and we're going to let Access know that they can remove that SMI designation and step them down to what we call general mental health. If the REBA or the health plans say that there are claims, we're going to send an individual a notice that says that they would have to have their provider complete and submit a decertification packet to us. And again, once the determination is made, we will let everybody know the outcome, and they can certainly appeal if they are not satisfied with the outcome. So in closing, I promise we're almost done. Let me share some contact information, and then we will be opening up for questions. If any of you ever have any questions relating to either the SMI or the SED process for kids, maybe you want to know where or how to refer someone or about the paperwork of the process, this is me sitting at my desk waiting for you to call or email me directly. If you have offered or suggested an assessment to a friend or a family member, maybe one of your clients, and they have questions about the process, they can certainly call or email me as well. You can also send them to our website here. We have a section tab on our website. It has some FAQs for community members and providers alike. We talk about the criteria and the timelines. We also have a tab for providers that actually houses the submission portal, how those packets are submitted to us. You can take a look at those forms as well. I also have information. I offer other community information sessions. I also deep dive sessions for providers. I teach them actually how to complete that packet and submit it to us. Anybody can call our toll-free number and ask questions if I'm not available. We do have a friendly bunch of folks who can answer any questions that you might have. We also have brochures that are available. They're just conversation starters. They speak to the process, what the SMI program is. We also have information cards and flyers regarding 211, 988, Be Connected, and our crisis and warm line services as well. If anybody wants some of those, just contact me. I can mail those out to you. You can put them in your waiting rooms or mail them out to your clients as well. So let's open it up for questions. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. Any questions, Sydney, in the chat? Anything we need to address?
I don't see anything in the chat yet. I do have a question though.
Sure.
So a lot of our, a lot of our clients that we work with, that we're trying to help through this process are in jail.
Okay.
And they don't have the ability to contact anyone really. They can't call out to their provider. They can't call you guys. Really, they can only, if they have money on their books, maybe they can make some phone calls. So a lot of times it's attorneys or reentry coordinators or justice employees that are helping these individuals like request these evaluations. So when the request comes from, let's just use an example as an attorney. So if an attorney is requesting an SMI evaluation for their client who's in jail, does that 7-day kind of timeline still apply? Like it has to be done, or the appointment has to be set up within 7 days of that request?
That's what Access mandates.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot of moving pieces to a situation like what you just laid out, Sydney. Sometimes, let's say, generally speaking, crisis prep and recovery, CPR, they're going to dispatch somebody to that jail to do that assessment. Again, they might be able to do it by telephone or telemedicine if the jail has access to those services. Generally speaking, CPR does try to get them done within 7 days of the referral, but sometimes, folks are sick or, the inmate's on lockdown or something like that. So again, generally speaking, it should be 7 business days, but sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. But it shouldn't be, 3 months down the road. No, it should be within, 7 to 10 days, I would say. And if you guys ever have problems, if somebody pushes back or something like that, please let me know. I know people all over everywhere. I can get you connected with somebody directly at CPR. You guys can always call them directly, and see what the issue is. If they just can't dispatch somebody, or if maybe somebody from a health home or somebody else could maybe go out and do that assessment. Okay, I hope that helps. Sydney, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Okay,
think
great.
that we generally up here in the north are using our two health homes
Okay,
for these evaluations.
sure, sure.
But I think it would be great for us to explore using CPR if it's possible. Just because this process has always historically taken quite a long time, especially for people who are in
Sure,
custody.
sure, sure. And again, the nice thing is access contracts directly with CPR to do those evaluations in the jail and prison system all over Arizona. So those folks are used to working with the folks of the jails. So hopefully that'll speed up the process up there as well. Okay,
That's great. Thank you.
great. All right, everybody. Any other questions, comments, anything else I can help with? I always worry maybe we put everybody to sleep.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat
Okay.
here.
Maybe I did such a perfect job. I answered everybody's questions. And sometimes it's one of those, you have to kind of wait until maybe you're knee deep in the process, or somebody asks it before it's like, oh, I should have asked this or that. I am always available, you guys, for questions or concerns. If you want to know if someone's ever been designated eligible, maybe they're not sure, you guys can reach out directly to me. Send me your client's name and date of birth. Because it is coordination of care, I can release that information if anybody's ever been through the determination process before, if they've been designated as SMI. Sometimes that designation does fall out of access. If you have a health home or a provider that's trying to look that up, they can only go back 36 months. I'm special. I can go back to basically what I'm going to call the beginning of time. Since the SMI process rolled out, I can go back and look at those historical records for folks and see if anybody's ever gone through the process or if they've ever been designated eligible. Again, once you're determined eligible in the state of Arizona, you're always eligible unless you've gone through the decertification process. And again, sometimes that designation falls out of access if somebody moved away or if they have been incarcerated for very long. Okay.
Great. I appreciate that. We do have
Yeah.
one question that came up in the Q&A.
Okay.
Does immigration status matter?
It does not. Anybody residing in the state of Arizona can ask and must be assessed regardless of their citizenship status, whether or not they have insurance, or whether or not the provider thinks they actually meet criteria.
Great, thank you. That is
You're welcome.
actually a great question. We've got a lot of thank yous, so we really
Yay.
appreciate the presentation. And we'll send out this slide deck to everybody, and obviously it contains your contact information. So everybody that's kind of on this webinar knows me pretty well, or should know me. And if they have questions for me too, they can reach out to me and I can connect them with you, Jennifer, as well.
Perfect.
Or everybody's more than welcome to contact Jennifer directly. So we just appreciate you doing this for us today. This is always a very hot topic. So
Absolutely. Yep.
Presentation.
All right. All right. Well, everybody, thanks everybody for your time and attention today. And I do want to say thank you for everything you guys do day in and day out for all of our community members. I'm quite sure many of you never hear the phrase thank you. So I do want to say thank you guys for doing everything that you do for our community members. Public service is not always a cakewalk, we'll say. All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to jump off. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you being here today. And again, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. We will get the slide deck sent out with Jennifer's information, as well as once we get our COJET certificate as well, we will send that out. But you all have a wonderful afternoon.